Welcome, everyone. My name is Christy Kelly, and I'm a faculty member at Drexel University in Philadelphia in the United States. I'm very excited today to be kicking us off with this amazing panel, which is part of the CSW 68 NGO Forum. The panel today is called Leadership and Multicultural Feminist Mentoring in Virtual Contexts. And it is co-hosted by Louisiana State University, Drexel University, Mentee, and the Society of Gender Professionals. Today we have a really packed agenda, and we hope to have this be as interactive as possible for all of you who are here today. We're going to start off with team introductions. We will have a short introduction to multicultural feminist mentoring. What is it? We will have a lovely panel discussion between Mentee and the Society of Gender Professionals, two amazing international organizations that provide innovative and creative mentoring options for women working in a global context. We'll have an interactive breakout session for you to share your own experiences with mentoring, as well as to learn a little bit more about these two organizations, Mentee and Society of Gender Professionals. We'll conclude with a report out and discuss next steps. For those of you just joining the room, we are recording, and we hope to make the recording available after this event as well. Thank you. So let me kick off, first of all, by introducing our behind-the-scenes support team. I'm Christy Kelly. I'm hosting today. I'm from Drexel University, and it's my pleasure to also introduce to you Supriya Kannan, who is a PhD student at Louisiana State University. She is supporting us as moderator today. Eric O'Brien is helping us with all things technology, making sure this is accessible, inclusive, and runs as smoothly as possible. Thank you, Eric. And then Priscilla Oroboy, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. She is a PhD student at Louisiana State University, also providing support. Both Suprita and Priscilla, you will meet as well in the breakout rooms, helping guide our conversation in those spaces. For those of you new to Zoom, which I'm sure not everybody is new to Zoom, but there might be some new things about Zoom as it's always being updated. We will be using breakout rooms during the second half of our session today. After the panel, 3 rooms will actually open up for smaller discussion. You can join the breakout room of your choice, and about halfway through, if you'd like to switch to a different breakout room, you may do so, or you can just stay in the breakout room where you can network, meet other people, and hear about these organizations that we're going to introduce you to today. Discussions will last about 30 to 45 minutes before we return to the main room. You will be automatically returned to the main room, and someone will be here to help you if you get lost somewhere along the way. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Dr. Agi-May Manangsang. She's assistant professor in the School of Leadership, Human Resource Development at Louisiana State University. Dr. Agi-May Manangsang is a specialist and expert in mentoring. She will be sharing some of her research today, as well as some of the overview of the kind of more scholarly take on mentoring and mentoring relationships. She's particularly interested in the role that mentoring plays in supporting women and marginalized communities in their career goals and career development. So we're really very, very happy to have her kicking us off today. So Agi, I will turn it over to you.
So today's session draws on multicultural feminist mentoring, which itself draws on feminist and critical race theories as applied to mentoring. So we utilize this framework to explore these concepts in the 2 distinct organizations that offer or foster mentoring relationships in a virtual space. So multicultural feminist mentoring arises from mentoring support for the unique challenges faced by individuals with multiple marginalized identities, such as women of color. because there's this perception that mentoring in and of itself is gender, race, and class neutral, but it's not. So multicultural feminist mentoring fills that space. It's informed by gender and race strategies on how best to develop minoritized individuals while deconstructing racialized and gendered spaces, as well as inequitable systems. So the mentor and mentee jointly explore differences and challenges in power dynamics, promoting proactive conflict resolution and critical reflections on the reproduction of structural inequalities in their organizations, in their fields, but also within the mentoring relationship itself. So it really implies that it's not simply having a one-directional developmental flow from mentor to mentee, but the mentor and mentee power share and recognize differences and privileges between them, as well as celebrate their cultural differences. Major activities for this approach really, again, center on that power sharing, honest communication, working together in equal collaboration, addressing their biases, and developing skills to really navigate the politics of their organization or their field. Because it is a mentoring, there is that component that it's focused on career advancement. The only difference is multicultural feminist mentoring accounts for the differences in identity between the mentor and the mentee, as well as assuming that you are going into a very political space in terms of gender and race. However, this approach does demand significant resources and effort. The research on it largely is still ongoing. It's mostly qualitative research focused either in the multicultural or the feminist mentoring space within the organizations that are being studied. So next slide. So let me introduce our panelists and get started with today's discussion. Next slide. So first we have the founder and CEO of Mentee, Letitia Zurich. Sorry, I mispronounced that name. Next, we have two members of the Society of Gender Professionals, Rachel Fisher Ingram, an independent gender consultant, and Elizabeth Wright Ventimiglia, former committee co-lead and program lead. I will turn it over to the panelists to give you more information on their respective organizations. First, Letitia. Next slide.
Hi, everyone. That's why my students call me Mrs. Z. It's so much easier. My name is Letitia Zwickert, and I am the founder and CEO of Mentee, which is an organization that supports folks globally who are 18 and older and disadvantaged by our global systems. It does so by partnering. We partner quite extensively on varying levels, and first and foremost, we partner with NGOs. I am a UN SDG organization and feel SDG 17 is critical. So as we work together collaboratively, we are creating more impact. So I partner with other NGOs in varying different capacities, from large institutions to grassroots organizations in every region of the world. And I support those they're supporting. In fact, many of these organizations I partner with, they themselves have their own mentorship programs. The philosophy is one that starts with the structure. I would say, very lucky and not to be funded early on. And I was able to create an organization with structures that represented and reflected my philosophy of how mentorship should look and how people should feel in the experience and what they should come away with. And so all of those pieces have been part of the building structure and constantly reevaluated as I thought perhaps something wasn't going the way I wanted, or I learned new things and I wanted to include them. So it's been a purposeful growth experience. And as you see here, there's a variety of ways in which we mentor. First, there is a kind of a tech heart, if you will, a beautiful platform that is LinkedIn-like, Individuals who are part of the platform are all trained. So the global mentors are trained, the mentees are trained, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody interested in how we do that. And this allows for an experience for the mentee then to not be paired with someone else, but in fact, instead choose a circle of mentorship around them as they ebb and flow through their life with different challenges and different needs. We support academic needs, we support professional needs, we support personal needs, we support language differences. So there's a variety of ways in which we are reaching out. We also have a wraparound program. Next slide, please. I think we can talk a little bit more there. So some of the things that Mentee tries to establish are some soft programs in the way that further develop the individuals in our community, both mentees, mentors, and the NGOs themselves. Everyone here is looking for growth, and we have all different kinds of experiences in which some of the partnerships beyond NGOs are university partners. And in that space, we are able to provide extra outcomes such as certifications, which of course are tangible walkways from an experience or session or longer series of sessions wherein my mentees are able to gain knowledge that they need for their life. Next slide, please. And so, to talk about that soft wraparound program, there are mind and body healing sessions every month for my mentees. There are also extended to the larger public occasionally. These sessions are incredibly important. Sometimes we're dealing with regions of the world where mental health is a taboo to speak about. And so the intent, of course, is to keep health in mind, but also to be very, very cognizant of the cultural differences, the varying kinds of perspectives that we are talking about, so that we are aware of how we're coming off and building a community of understanding and wellness. So the conversations that are giving tools for folks are very, very important and part of our program, as well as professional development. These types of sessions come straight from the mouths of mentees in the community who are asking for specific things, so that we can then make sure and assure that in a group session we have deep conversations with a variety of experts. And then, as I mentioned before, varying different kinds of partnerships with universities to support learning. So thank you very much for your time. I'm really looking forward to speaking more about Mentee.
Thank you, Letitia. My name is Rachel Fisher-Ingram, and together with my colleague, we will be sharing about the Society of Gender Professionals Co-Mentoring Program. But to first set the stage, we wanted to share a little bit about what the Society of Gender Professionals, or SGP, is. And we're happy to talk further about this in the breakout room. SGP began in 2018-2019 and was created as a global nonprofit membership network, linking gender practitioners, academics, and activists who are passionate and dedicated to promoting feminist action and applied research. It grew out of a desire to provide opportunities to formalize and organize and standardize the field of gender specialists, and to provide a place for new gender specialists to grow and learn through intergenerational, intersectional, and international collaboration. To date, we have over 450 members from over 50 countries. Through professional development opportunities, some of which you can see on the screen, network building and member collaboration, co-leadership, and a platform to create, promote, and disseminate applied gender research, the SGP program, or membership or network community, strives to advance gender justice in member communities through coordinated feminist action. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So I'm Elizabeth, or Ellie, and I'm here with Rachel to talk about SGP and our program, our feminist co-mentoring program, which we unofficially called Standing Together. So the program ran twice, drawing on individuals from all over the world. In total, we had about 140 individuals that were selected to participate in the two programs, although the level of participation varied significantly. The first round of co-mentoring, which I had the opportunity to design and co-lead, matched participants in groups of two. There were also a lot of group sessions, which I will talk more about later on. However, it was assumed that the partners or the commenters would set their own goals, their agendas, their meeting times. It was all self-led. But of course, me and other SGP team members provided oversight and guidance as needed. The second round of the program was slightly different, and that's because we received feedback from the prior commenters from the pilot program. And so in the second round, we first hosted some informal sessions before matching the commenters. And this was to introduce the program and also see if some natural relationships formed and to see if participants had a preference about who to match with in these group sessions. And so instead of pairing people in groups of 2, we paired them into groups of 4 and 1 of 5. And this was because, we thought that having a slightly larger group would facilitate more interaction, more commitment. And so, yes, that's why we had this time we had groups. And also in the second program, I transitioned into the role of co-mentor, and leadership was assumed by other 3 co-leads, including Rachel. And so, yeah, and then one last thing is that we, in both programs, the co-leads organized a few group events, which were also co-led by the commenters. And we also did, we created these occasional guiding prompts to facilitate commenters' experiences and learning outcomes. These topics and activities for the prompts varied from reflections on nonlinear careers to creating vision boards, using illustrations to reflect on cross-border collaboration and solidarity, watching TED Talks, and a lot more. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, just gonna go back to my notes. Okay, so we had many positive outcomes from our experiences in the Standing Together program. First, there were many unique opportunities for engagement and growth. Because a lot of commenters, they took on leadership roles by creating distinctive learning opportunities for their peers. So for example, a few individuals created workshops or presentations, such as a workshop titled Who Am I? As an experiment. In the first program, we also had commenters working together to host workshops on career design and panel discussions to share experiences of studying gender in different institutions and countries. So this created a space for participants to develop skills in event organizing, collaboration, and public speaking, which was great. Yeah, the global cross-sectional pairings were also met with enthusiasm. The program individuals reported appreciating their common values, their common viewpoints regarding intersections of gender, race, religion, community, etc. A unique outcome that we had in this program was what we called the Gifts and Wishes document, which is a tool that I learned about in my master's program. This document was designed to highlight and serve as a directory for all commenters across the 2 cohorts that we had. So each commenter was given one virtual PowerPoint slide to share themselves, to write down their gifts and their wishes. So the background behind this was to share that or establish that everyone has a special set of gifts that they can share with others. So everyone has something to receive, but also everyone has something to offer. So this could be a skill such as, how to do gender analysis or give feedback on a resume, or, experience with applying to PhD programs, things like that. And wishes could be really anything. It could be, support with practicing a foreign language or building a personal website and things like that. So this directory was accessible to everyone in the program, which gave everyone the opportunity to connect with commenters that they were not necessarily paired with. Yeah, and now we'll talk about the challenges.
Thank you. So briefly, we did encounter several challenges as well, as always happens when you're trying something, I think. We had a lot of thoughtful consideration when we were matching our co-mentees, and and navigating time zones and the frequency of the meetings and the duration of the meetings. But all of those factors ultimately also contributed to challenges. Despite our careful efforts, we manually kind of matched everyone in the program. So we had an extensive survey or questionnaire that we had asked people to complete, which helped facilitate that matching process. And despite all of our careful planning, the time zones really did contribute to some challenges, as did in keeping people engaged. And because it was such an intensive process for matching people, and we wanted to curate and craft special sessions and kind of create prompts and stuff, I think some of that effort also was contributed to some of our time intensive challenges as well, especially for the co-leads. I think another thing that we'd want to consider or think about is we had a welcome pack, as I said, we gave individuals a welcome pack that created or shared expectations and objectives about our program. It was pretty detailed, but I think ultimately we got feedback that people had wanted more information on really how to function as a mentee and how to function as a mentor and how to craft meaningful mentee sessions. And so I think in the future, we're considering or thinking about what would training look like and how would that facilitate further engagement by mentees and how would that make a more robust partnership. And lastly, we experimented with different lengths of the program. So the first cohort ran for about 9 months. I was part of that one, and then I switched into the co-lead role. And our second round was about 6 months. But it's clear that because these were long time periods and people perhaps didn't feel as connected because they needed some more guidance or because of the time zone differences, it was hard to maintain engagement over that time frame. So thank you. We'll next be engaging in the panel discussion.
Wonderful. So now I have a few questions I'll direct to the two organizations. So my first question is, how does multicultural feminist mentoring manifest in your mentoring program? Either organization can go.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and respond to that question. There's a lot of different ways in which, as I mentioned, the core philosophy of Mentee exhibits itself in our developing of our relationships, the role identity to start with, the communication that takes place, and ultimate outcomes. So it's a very important part to developing a program, designing a program, is to think about roles. And so part of the intention, of course, of Mentee, it's meant to be a non-hierarchical space. It's meant to be an inclusive space. It's meant to be a space where we are constantly revisiting, the culture of our relationships and our exchanges, so that it is reflecting of all the needs of our community. And so in designing the ways in which people are trained to take on the role of global mentor and to take on the role of mentee, a lot of the very intentional steps have been taken to make sure that individuals understand why they're there, feel empowered to be there, and also in doing so create what we hope is a trusting climate, so that if things aren't reflective of those core values and hopes, that we have the avenue for feedback and we can have very open conversations. So I think, it's important to be intentional in structuring things, to know what it is you're looking to create, and ultimately have ways of feedback to assure that that is what is actually happening.
SGP?
So I would echo some of what Letitia said. I think, as a feminist organization, we wanted those principles to be embodied in the program that we created. So we wanted to provide multiple opportunities for the co-mentoring. We didn't want our program to be limited in scope because there were challenges related to language or geography, which also, as you heard, created some challenges. But we didn't want limiting factors based on where someone was located, what they looked like, what they brought to the table. We wanted anyone at any level to be involved. And we wanted to get rid of sort of any power differentials by creating this co-mentorship experience. So we strove to create a program without hierarchy, where opportunities were present for shared learning and growing, and rooted really in that horizontal model of we're equal, and really emphasizing in particular that we all bring something to the table. We all have something wonderful to offer, and we all have very different experiences, but they're each valuable in and of themselves, and we can each learn from each other. And that was kind of at the core of what we were trying to create. And I think, again, that feminist participatory engagement and support, compassion for and belief that everyone's unique lived experiences are valuable has really brought strength to our program and created some opportunities for growth and a robust program at times.
Great.
I just wanted to add one thing. I really enjoy what Rachel said about just being able to take some of those components in a way to help also extend and grow and invite. I think part of it as well is making sure that not only are they part of the structure and communication and role, but as you said, also just to have this highlight of, even kind of a beacon of a trusting, secure, safe space for this kind of work, wherein we are fueling a community that, appreciates and will help further foster growth of your own community. So I appreciate that.
Great. So based on that, what are your practical advice to cultivate a multicultural feminist mentoring relationship, either transforming one that already exists, a mentoring relationship that already exists, or creating a whole new one? What are sort of your recommendations?
I can go. I think we were thinking about it two ways, personally and sort of in the broader feminist mentoring landscape. So personally, things like very practical considerations, how much time am I willing to commit to a relationship? Can I give time regularly? Am I looking to meet during business hours or outside of hours? I mean, I think all of those seem like mundane considerations, but they're very real. And we found, like, as I mentioned, that the time zone really is a real challenge. I think when you're looking to be transnational or multidisciplinary, when you're looking at sort of all the intersecting lenses and intersecting factors that you want in your program to make it a really rich program. So I think those are very real. And thinking about, really what are you looking for in a program? What are my goals? If I was creating a program, what are the goals that I want for my program? What am I looking to get out of it? Can I be flexible when things don't work out? How do I change things? What skills or experiences can I offer in a co-mentoring situation? So really practical things for yourself, like making an inventory of what you can offer, kind of what Ellie talked about, the gifts and wishes. What am I looking for? What can I offer? How would I define a successful relationship, and what does that look like? And then on the broader sort of feminist mentoring landscape, my recommendation would be, don't reinvent the wheel. Things are out, programs are out there. So I think, Mentee has a phenomenal program, and that might be a great place to start. I think we're still, I think we've had some really great programs, and we're looking to revise and learn from what we've done. But again, considerations like, what type of organizations are you looking for to be a part of if you're looking to do mentoring? Is it a membership organization? Is it open to everyone? Or is it closed? And if it's open to everyone, is there a membership fee? Is there a language barrier? What language does it operate in? Is it based in the States? So is time zones going to be challenging? What are the values of the organization? Do they say they're feminist, multicultural organization, are they truly that? You know, can I look at their leadership and see that? Can I look at their principles and see that? And if you find that there's an opportunity already out there, you know, again, I would suggest you start there and kind of take a lens and look through what they have to offer. And if not, then you can begin to build something. And again, if you're going to build something, look at what's been done, what do you like, and pull from that before you start creating on your own. I think it's a big, as we've learned in SDP, and I'm sure Letitia could say the same thing, it's a big process to create your own mentoring program. It takes a lot of work and energy and passion and dedication. So being committed to something like that is really fundamental to your success.
Yeah, I want to echo everything that you've said. And I think, you know, as we look through these things, we acutely are aware of that. And sometimes, you know, the weight of the challenges can be heavy, but the rewards are so incredible, as we know as well. And, you know, so it's really focus in on that relationship piece and then move to, you know, the model or creation of a model itself. The relationship piece is, again, I would go back to simply looking at, you know, if you are currently mentoring, you know, what is it that you're hoping for? And, you know, you might be in a situation where you've had your role defined well for you, or you might not be. Many programs actually, I don't think, do a good enough job identifying what is your role. And again, for both individuals as part of that conversation. So, you know, you can do that yourself, you know, and what do you feel? And then have that conversation with the individual you're working with, because that's such an important piece to building trust in the communication piece with the person that you're collaborating with, that you're having these growth conversations with. And also, you know, if you're not part of something, to be seeking out, I want to echo this from Rachel, you're seeking out spaces that you feel comfortable with. You look for the kinds of conversations you're looking to have or to echo or to fuel. And, you know, and that part is a beautiful part. So there's so many different organizations out there, you know, and again, you know, doing research to find the right space for you. Or asking someone or asking one of us to find, you know, to help you find that space is a good starting place. And then for, you know, developing your own organization or program, or even just an exchange, right? A mentorship exchange, you know, all of these pieces, again, require so many different kinds of layers in terms of inclusion. And as Rachel was mentioning, of course, there's, you know, are you focused in your community locally? Are you focused, you know, within your country? Are you focused multinationally? And then how do you account for those challenges? But regardless, you're always going to have layers of challenge that are interpersonal, and, you know, and to have the added focus of time zone or what have you, it might be an extra challenge in some ways, but it might be something that is a fun challenge as well. And so my recommendation, of course, is to start with finding a group of folks who you feel really comfortable asking a lot of questions. And that might take some research, and that might take some seeking within your networks. But, you know, I started out that way. I was very lucky to have found some incredible individuals who gave their time to me to help me think through what I was looking for. Even though I knew what I didn't like, I wasn't sure exactly what I was hoping for. And through conversation to realize this is what I want to build. And then being willing to continue to develop it. I think that's such a core piece. It's a core part of our human need for growth. It's the understanding, of course, that we are not just also modeling this as the individual maybe creating a program, but that there are participants who should also be part of that modeling and developing. Their voice should be heard, and you should have mechanisms to hear their voice and have them be part of the process of development. So.
Interesting. So that really leads me to my next question. So multicultural feminist mentoring really arises due to the limitations of what's known as traditional mentoring, where it's very much top-down senior mentor organizational member, developing for the purposes of career advancement, the more junior organizational member, and it's not accounting for issues maybe regarding gender and race differences, things like that. And both of your organizations have mentioned, you know, the influences of culture, of also needing to sort of feed this growth need. So I'm wondering, how can you give recommendations on how to really overcome these sort of challenges when it comes to being embedded in cultures that have, you know, large power dynamics, power deference, feeling the need, maybe like, let's say you're in a doctoral program and you have expertise and because you're reading so much, but you don't feel like you can share that. So even just on that sort of micro scale.
Yeah, so I can go. So in terms of the challenges, something that we realized from early on is that more people see themselves as mentees more often than as mentors, or would rather be mentees than mentors. So I've seen this in a lot of traditional programs. There's always more applications to be mentees than mentors. And I think it's important to think why this might be. Perhaps people don't feel like they have much to contribute. I feel like we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves and feel like we're not enough. And so, yeah, a challenge is definitely, you know, fostering the sense that everyone has something valuable to share and can contribute equally to the mentoring relationship, which would lead to a two-way street. So our advice that we came up with Rachel is, you know, sharing our experiences, shifting how we do programming, teaching others what multicultural feminist mentoring can look like and why it's so valuable. And another thing that we suggest is looking into what values could be part of everyone's practice, right? So in the welcome pack that Rachel mentioned, we included, you know, some values to kind of start us off so that we can try to be the same page, and these were mutual learning, horizontal relationships, co-leadership or shared leadership, and accountability. So these are some of the things that we came up with to address these challenges. I don't know if I'm missing anything, Rachel, if you want to add anything else.
I think that's great.
I think all of those things are so important and critical, Ellie. And when we look at the idea of those kinds of conversations up front, this has been part of something that I will echo in every space is, again, the importance of training. So, if you put, two people in a room, there is this assumption. Some people will say, that they create this hierarchy because some people will say, well, I feel like that person has more, education, or they have more power, just, depending on their role or what have you. And this natural, unfortunately, hierarchy results, right? But instead, if we have those two individuals who are trained and they reflect deeply on a variety of levels on their own challenges and their own role in that conversation, they come to the table, hopefully, with a greater sense of equality in space as a human being who is there to learn and share. So one of the things we do at Mentee is we train both our global mentors and our mentees. And the first part of both of their training is trauma training. And so they both are looking at, what's the trauma I have gone through? What are the challenges I have seen in my life? What are the things that are hard for me still to get over? And identifying those and exploring self and self-reflection so that, this is meant to be both, a piece where we're really seeing our own humanity and we're able to understand it in a more solid foundational way from a psychological perspective that gives us tools then to feel comfort and confidence. And then the second part for my mentees is confidence building. And the confidence building is telling their own story so well that they can share those best practices with another. So for me, it's making sure that the mentee is feeling this solid ground underneath them, so that when they're walked to the opportunity to have all of these, it's my platform is LinkedIn-like, so they have this incredible selection of global mentors in front of them. And then they have this confidence to say, yeah, this person's gonna help me because of these needs that I have and the specialization that they can offer me. And I'm gonna reach out. And so that type of walking people into a role, whereas of course my mentor as well needs that same process. They need to be walked into that room with all the steps. You walk them in and introduce, allow for the space for the introduction. All the things that happen before that introduction allow for the kind of interaction that you're hoping for. And then, you hopefully also have thought through, well, if that doesn't work, what do you do? What are your avenues to solve challenges that might arise? And I've been lucky enough to say that over, Mentee is 6 years old, just in actually about a week. And, I've only had to have really 2 conversations where I made them conversations that, because of the community that has been developed, were conversations of catch up and larger kind of deep understandings of what's happening within Mentee and within the space and global mentorship, and then moving it to a conversation about an exchange that was taken a certain way, and to have that conversation with the global mentor to get their feedback and their opinion and move it towards a place of mutual understanding, and always be ready to say, hey, maybe this isn't a space for you as well. So I think there's always, the ideal, how you move people to that direction. It has been very successful the way we've done it, in that allowing for their space to learn and grow, and allowing for a culture of understanding that we are all learning and growing. But again, there are always going to be challenges, and to know, how are you going to manage the challenge when it occurs?
Now, really, to emphasize, both of these organizations are cultivating these really intentional and in-depth mentoring relationships in a virtual space, which adds its own challenges, like both of them have mentioned. So you're not just dealing with sort of cultural aspects, differences, but also just regular practical differences of time zones. So I'm wondering what your best approaches are to really having these types of relationships, given that they're happening in the virtual space.
Okay, I can go. Well, as Letitia has shared a lot about the initial training, we think that that's a great way to start. That's something that we would love to incorporate in the future. So we're thinking about, initial training that focuses on things like how to maximize meetings virtually, and what does it mean to do feminist multicultural mentoring, things like that. Something else that's important to keep in mind in virtual spaces is accessibility. So, thinking about, your co-mentor, your mentee, or your mentor, do they need a specific video call platform? Do they need closed captioning? What can you both do to make your meetings as accessible as possible? It's very important. Cultivating active listening is also very important. And another advice that we have is to use online tools to gather all your thoughts, your ideas, the resources that you're sharing, the conversations that you're having. And also this tool can be very helpful for the times in between your meetings. So it's not just about the time that you're together, but also what's happening in between. And you can look into that tool whenever you need it. So for example, I had a Miro board with my commentor Gabby, where we put all the things that we talked about, or even just the things that we wanted to discuss in our future meetings. We would put them all in this Miro board, which had, you know, links and keywords and questions. And it was kind of like a brain dump of all the things that we were reflecting on and all the things that we were learning from each other. So I definitely recommend making use of all the online tools out there and find something that works for you and your commentor or your mentee or your mentor. Something else that's important is to have, you know, shared agreements, you know, kind of like group norms. So, you know, just make sure that you're all on the same page about the frequency of your meetings, the length. Yeah, like I mentioned, which platform are you going to use? And have reflections on what does respectful behavior look like, what happens if you can't come to a meeting, things like that. And keep in touch in between sessions as well. This could be through email or, you know, share articles or resources in between your meetings as well. Definitely make space to share feedback with each other, you know, reflect on what's working, what's not working, and, you know, just having honest conversations about that. I think that's all on our side.
So you know what, I am a space mentee is a space that deals with the time zone challenge from, again, as a global organization with 85% of our global mentors outside of the United States, and, you know, really like pretty much 99% of our mentees outside of the United States. And with folks all around the world, the mentors all around the world, the mentees all around the world. When I built the platform itself, I wanted that piece to be a non-issue. And so in our platform, we built in a calendar function that, you know, you are seeing your meeting in your own time, but you're also understanding and seeing the meeting time for the other individual. So you have an understanding. Of course, one of the challenges in this space is to make sure that you understand, of course, that people do come to the room or the table sometimes still feeling like a mentor has more power. And so you're constantly trying to battle against that, regardless of training and all these things. And then this is just one thing that was very important for me. So I didn't want my mentees who, you know, are in Vietnam or Thailand or in the Myanmar camps, you know, refugee camps, or folks who are in sub-Saharan Africa, you know, or my, you know, Palestinian refugees in Southern Lebanon, like all of these different folks who are in different spaces that challenge them, both Wi-Fi and electricity, and I'll talk about that as well, but to also sacrifice a late night session or in the middle of the morning session to have that conversation. So that's part of the process of making sure people are aware, and then making sure that people are finding time that's equitable. And then the other part too is to make it as a level playing field as possible, given the challenges I just said, which is beyond me. If I ruled the world, you know, but I don't. And so I try to do what I can as just as one individual partnering with many other organizations. And so trying to find creative solutions like asynchronous mentorship, where a mentee can record a video and send it to a mentor, and a mentor can record a video back. If they're really struggling with Wi-Fi or electrical issues, have group sessions where they're coming to my NGO partner. And this is why I partner with NGOs globally, because there's someone on the ground, there's someone local. And so to find a local space where, you know, folks can come and we can have a larger session that way, and getting what the mentees are looking for and kind of facilitating that through a workshop or a panel discussion. And, you know, even trying to dig deeper more recently and trying to see how can I use crypto with trying to pay folks their data that goes, you know, to go directly on their phone, and then they have their phone because many countries are using WhatsApp like we use Zoom, right? And WhatsApp is an essential tool for communication. So how can I start using the tools that my mentees typically use regularly and is accessible to them instead of being stuck in my own world, and try to make sure I'm giving them access to all these specialists through avenues that work for them. So I just see it as the next challenge. What can we do to fix it? And though it's never going to be fully fixed, I think there are creative ways of solving some of the challenges. And as best I can, we do it as an organization. And again, through our collaborative partnerships, which are so important.
Thank you for sharing that. So I am going to end the panel discussion. It's been a very great conversation so far. Our IT support has made notes of any of the questions in the chat, and we'll be asking them to our panelists in the breakout rooms. So if you could go to the next slide, Dr. Kelly. So thank you again to the panelists. And so next we have an opportunity to discuss these topics together in the breakout rooms. We'll have a graduate student assistant in each room assisting with the technology and taking notes. The three breakout rooms we have are, the first room will be Mentee. The second room is Society of Gender Professionals. And the third room will be discussing all things research with regards to multicultural feminist mentoring. So we're gonna start the breakout rooms. Just click on the link when it shows up on your screen of which room you want to join. And then you will automatically be returned within 30 minutes. At the halfway point, you do have the option to switch over to a different room.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I think almost everyone's here. Hopefully we didn't lose anybody along the way, but if so, they'll re-enter. Letitia's here. I see Rachel. I see Ellie. I see Augie and all of your IT support folks. So thank you all again for participating. I know some of you joined late. That is absolutely fine. We have a recording of the first half where the organizations were introducing themselves, and we talked a little bit about what is feminist multicultural mentoring in virtual spaces. So we have about 10 minutes here, and it would be wonderful to hear a few minutes from each of the rooms about some of the highlights, some of the things you discussed, and we will take notes and share some of those notes out with everybody who registered as well. So let's start with the research room number 3. And put you number 1 for a change.
Thank you. I know it was a great conversation. A lot of the things that were brought up, I think, are super important to consider when thinking about either your own mentoring relationships, creating a mentoring program, or joining a mentoring program. And that's, in terms of how do you deal with the different demographics. So you as a mentor, you as a mentee, how do you make the most of a mentoring relationship when that person is of a different race, gender, culture, or country of origin from you? And a lot of what we were talking about is investing in the time to create developmental networks, so mentoring networks, board of directors, however it is you want to label them. So you would practically look at where you're at in your career and what you believe are your developmental needs, and then proactively find people to meet those needs. You do not need to invest emotionally in your mentoring relationships. It could just be someone you contact once a year around a conference and you have a high quality, solid interaction with that person called a mentoring episode, where it isn't, there is no emotional aspect to it. You're not talking about, the difficulties you're having in your personal life or things like that. You could. So it's, your developmental network should be diverse. It should be, have like men and women at different positions within their career. It could be from your professional domain, your personal domain. It could be your mom even. Anyone who is there to support you and there to advance your career and to help you sort of figure out all of those difficulties that come along the way, especially if you are, you know, a woman, a person of color, if you are an immigrant, an expatriate for whatever country that you're located in. It's important to have those people. They need not be the same person. is the greatest takeaway. It should be different people for different things in your life.
Thank you so much. And how about mentee group number 1? What are some of the highlights of what you discussed?
Thank you. So it was a really wonderful conversation. It was focused quite a bit around engagement, which was lovely. A conversation about our own mentors and mentees in our life, and how those experiences have gone and how they move us to kind of come to this conversation today. Varying different spaces represented in the world in our room, which was really fun. I know one of the women had to leave, but the conversation focused in on, you know, varying ways in which, you know, we can help and support each other, and looking at also the incredible conversations that are happening around us at this event. So it's just a very inspirational conversation. And I want to do a shout out to Esther. I'm seeing her in the room. So
Hey, I had a great time talking to Dr. Manasan.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So yeah, no, it was a great conversation. Esther was not in my room. We'll catch up later, but just such a pleasure.
I joined 2 rooms except yours. Sorry.
No, we know each other. It's all good. All right. Thank you.
That's so wonderful. And I'll turn it over to Society of Gender Professionals, SGP. What are some of the highlights from your conversation?
We spent a lot of time talking, we did some introductions, we spent a lot of time talking about our program and sort of thinking about the duration of it and what would make it more engaging. And then we had a lovely conversation with Sarah around just looking at some of the challenges with her program and thinking about, you know, sometimes the mentoring programs are driven by where you are and what place you are in your life, you know, where you are in the world and what place you are, and how duration might impact that and what that could look like, and opportunities for reflection among participants and how that could really inform your change or inform you how you structure your programming. And then Esther joined, and we just sort of talked about the nuances of working in this space and language around gender, and considering how do you bring in men and what role they might play as well.
May I endorse Dr. Manasan? I really enjoyed talking to her. It was really, really interesting. I just feel like this general idea of just proactively seeking a group of people to cover you, who can help you. I could definitely bring out some evidence to support what she just shared, because I had a mentor when I was a PhD student, and he was a Caucasian guy, nothing like me. But even sometimes I only meet him twice a year. But if I feel comfortable to shoot him an email, I have something urgent I need to get done, I want to attend this conference in Europe, I need his support to get the to proofread something, he supported me, and I was able to go to a conference every year. Like I felt like he was the backup supporter outside the business hours. I did not feel comfortable to reach out my formal mentor who only works from 9 to 5. But for him, I can bug him even at 10 p.m. I'm like, hey, this conference, there's a deadline. You just found this conference online. In 2 days, I'm going to put together something. Can you help me? He would stay up for something like that. He knew what a great experience I could have to have a funding to get a flight to Europe and have a great experience. So that's why I totally support what Dr. Manasan said. It can be one-time solid conversation. You know, it doesn't have to be every day, but that conversation can be very impactful if someone directs you to the right place. And I came to Silicon Valley because somebody told me when I was halfway through my PhD program that I should come to America, and America is where I should go, and the sky's the limit here. And I told him I didn't have money. What am I going to do there? And he said, all you need to do is to have a good idea. And now I had this good idea and I started my own company, and it's happening. And somebody spoke the vision out of me, and all they need to do is to tell me my potential, and I take a chance, and it's happening. And now I'm rallying support. I just got one, actually a dean of a graduate business school who have agreed to be on my to help me like put together a board of advisors. That's why I'm going to do what Leticia is doing, putting together awesome people, and then great things are going to happen. So I'm really excited. And I'm learning things from all fronts. That's why I'm here. When I see Leticia's announcement, I'm like, I gotta register. And then later I found out, oh, it's 7:30. Great, I can make it. Thank you, everyone.
I love that you're able to find so many different mentoring relationships and then turn around and be able to become a mentor as well. And I think that's one of the keys we've learned today, is that there's so many different options and so many different models. So we're at the end of our time. So I'm going to turn it back to Augie for some concluding thoughts and where we go from here.
So here are our contact information. Feel free to follow up with us if you have any questions that we didn't get to during the breakout rooms, if you want to know more. And we will be sharing the slides and the recording with those who registered, as well as useful resources. What was particularly striking to me is a need for these sort of talks. So that's going to be on my mind, and I'll keep the contact list for any future talks.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining today, and particularly to Leticia from Mentee, Rachel and Ellie from Society of Gender Professionals, and of course, Augie and your IT team for really putting so much effort and so much thought, sharing your time and your expertise today. We all appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.